Welcome to Point of View, everyone. This is our last episode of 2021. Nick, how are you feeling?
I'm so excited. Guys, we have been planning this episode. How many hours have we put into this? Over 10, over yes. 15, honestly.
Enough for it to be at least a part-time job, maybe a full-time this week.
Yeah. Let me paint a quick picture for you, because last night we were sitting on Justin's bedroom floor for a good 5 hours.
Nothing unusual about that.
No, right? No, my legs started to not, I was so cramped. I was like, I'm going to go to the bathroom. So dedicated to our craft, we continued to listen to the episodes. We each had a earpiece in, and we were listening to episode 22, right?
Yes. The latest episode.
Yes.
When we're recording hasn't even come out yet.
Yes. So I'm literally peeing, and I hear myself say, in the episode, from last episode, I'm not wearing pants.
Did you mention that we had Bluetooth earbuds on?
Yes, okay. Justin was not in the bathroom.
I was not in the bathroom,
but
too.
I hear me say, yeah, I'm not wearing pants, by the way. And then the episode just stops. And I was like, he definitely just paused that. He's definitely marking it down. So. But do you want to talk a little bit about what we're going to do on the episode?
Sure. So this is a highlight episode of sorts, or a commentary episode. You know how sometimes you watch your favorite movie, which I'm sure for you is either A Star is Born or House of Gucci, and you hear the crew or the cast talk about, in this scene we pictured this. Well, this is kind of our take on that. So it might be a little bit of a longer episode. We hope you still enjoy it, but it's kind of just the highlights of... I mean, Nick, what an accomplishment that we started a podcast, didn't think we would have, 5 listeners, never mind 50. We're averaging 50 per episode, which is fantastic. And usually I'm not big about sharing our numbers, but I think in this time it's kind of exciting.
It is. And so much care went into this. We're going to be giving you our thoughts, our reflections, our behind-the-scene takes. And by takes, I just mean our thoughts on it. And
we're going to review all 22 episodes since July.
Yeah.
When we started this, and now it's December.
July 19th
we really hope you enjoy. Let's get started.
On episode 20, we talked about our mantra, which we're going to be using a lot more in the coming year. But our mantra for Point of View is we speak our truth to learn the truth. So that's what we're going to do today. And what is it, Erica?
Just because it ends doesn't mean it's actually over.
Exactly.
So should we start from the very beginning?
Yes.
Okay, so
I say we start.
Let's start from the first episode, shall we? Yes. So here's the first introduction song that we knew we were going to need a theme song. Our producer Dan, we knew we were in safe hands with him, and this is what our first introduction sounded like.
Welcome to Point of View.
I'm Justin.
I'm Nick, and today we're going to be talking about what it's like to graduate during a pandemic, the glorious period between college and employment, finding self-worth in transition, going on interviews, and the toll virtual work can take on mental health. Justin, let's talk about things from our point of view.
Oh my God, we sound like noobs.
I thought you were going to say children. I was like, it wasn't that long ago.
I mean, that too, I guess. But we sound like... I almost feel like we were most prepared for that episode, even though I feel like our episodes got better as we went along. It's almost like we were most prepared for that.
We absolutely were. And also, the music in the background sounds like we're an Animal Crossing villager from GameCube, if anybody played that. But we definitely, we prepared for it. We wrote down basically everything we were going to say, and we were both looking at...
This is true. Like, for every other intro that we did, every subsequent intro, we just kind of ad-libbed. after we recorded it, and it just got worse. And for that one, we had scripted. We knew what we were doing, but
What was going through your mind when we started recording that first episode?
I was super excited. I had a little bit of an adrenaline rush, I think. I didn't really know if I could talk to you for an hour, but now knowing...
He didn't know if he could talk to me for an hour.
For those who know me, you know I can talk forever, so I don't know where that came from. But yeah, it was nerves, but also adrenaline. What about you?
Okay, so when you first came to me and said, let's start a podcast, I was like, absolutely, let's do it. And then you guys were like, okay, let's start recording next week. And I was like, oh, absolutely not. Like, I was not ready. And then, so I walked in, I was like, okay, I feel like this is premature, but let's just do it. And then coming out of it, I was like, what the hell did I just do? Did I share too much? Like, I was so scared. But listening back, I was very excited for episode 2. So let's listen to our other intros. Spoiler alert, they're worse than the first.
Very much so.
Do you want to just do our how are you?
Sure.
All right. Yeah, we do so bad at this, I'm not gonna lie. This is awesome. Well, there's our blooper for this episode. Do you want to... Should I introduce the topic? Yeah. Should we introduce the topic?
Yes, I feel like it's now an obligatory sentence to introduce the topic is, should we introduce the topic?
Got it. That
Nick,
was me signing my consent form.
Let me just quickly submit my consent form and...
So I'm starting. Okay. Anyways, all right, so you told me that I was going first for my check-in. Nick, how are you? I am excellent. How do you guys want us... I genuinely forget how we start these off. This is episode 2. Episode 2.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wait, could you hear that?
Yes.
All right, hold on. Let me do not disturb this.
No, I didn't hear anything. Ash, stay on mute until I introduce you.
Oh, sorry. Okay, hold on. Bye.
All right, do you want to do the welcome back, Justin?
Sure. I'm not even just going to say.
Should I introduce our guests?
You said the obligatory, should I introduce our guest? So might as well, yeah.
That's a good transition, though.
Wait, what did Elizabeth say? Her fruit?
Yeah.
She said a strawberry.
Oh, strawberry. Okay. I thought you were like, I don't know, strawberry.
Oh,
But-
no. I didn't do
All
it.
right. She's locked in. All right. Go ahead, Nick, with the transition.
Well, do you have anything to add? Because I don't want to,
To the fruit conversation?
just anything.
I'm good. Go for it. I was going to do the transition too, but you jumped right to it.
Well,
We're
no,
doing
if you
great
have
today.
one. You want to close us out?
I can close this out.
Should we, all right, should we head out? Am I taking us home?
Go for it.
Should I introduce the subject matter we got going on here?
Nick, would you like to take us home?
No. Welcome to Point of View. I'm Nick.
I'm Desmond.
Today we're going to talk about music. Terms and conditions may apply. Oh, we gotta do that again.
Is that what
Ready?
you just
We gotta shit. All right, here we go. Hold on. All right.
Hold on, wait, I gotta pull myself together.
Oh.
Too good.
It's too good.
The last one especially is my favorite.
When we made that a blooper, I honestly in the draft couldn't stop listening to that over and over and over.
I was gonna say I think you are half the listens of that episode.
Literally just, oh, we're gonna have to bleep. Like,
We're gonna have to bleep. We're gonna have to bleep. We're gonna have to bleep.
I can't help but notice though that, and this is, I try and be humble, but it sounded like a lot of those were you.
They were, but you know what? I have something to say about that because one, I put a little thing together of some of your bloopers too.
Like some repeats or something, or some of my
Precisely.
incoherence.
Precisely.
All right, fine. Let's listen to it.
Transitioning from a more lax summer schedule to a more rigorous fall schedule. Going from a lax or a more lax summer schedule to a more rigorous fall schedule. But also going from a more relaxed kind of schedule where you can hang out with like friends on the weekend, that people tend to be more available. There might be more concerts in the summer, more things to do, to a more kind of work-oriented schedule, I would say, in the fall, or school-oriented schedule. Going from, a lax summer schedule into a more rigorous fall schedule. Lax summer schedule to a more rigorous fall schedule. Lax summer, rigorous fall, lax summer, rigorous summer, fall, lax summer, fall, lax summer, rigorous, lax summer.
Okay.
There it
I feel
is.
like that and one other thing was something that like you didn't stop. You and Dan didn't stop. Like, I think we're transitioning from lax summer to a rigorous fall.
Oh, we teased him off air for that.
I know, all the
like,
time.
I just would say it in text. I'd be like, guys, I think I'm having more of like a rigorous fall.
Well, there was that, and then there was was I needed in this space? Was
that one too. We didn't even...
You always would like tease was like, guys, I entered into a space and I wasn't needed in that space.
Yeah.
But that was an episode that we like talked about something actually of substance, even though we've just kind of dwindled it down to me saying lax summer, rigorous fall. I feel like we had a much longer conversation about, well, transitioning from a lax summer to a rigorous fall.
Self-care.
But self-care.
Yes.
Self-care.
And I said this a lot throughout the year, but one of the biggest self-care ideas that I, honestly became a mantra for me was just that the world is gray. And we talked about this a lot, how nothing's black and white, and how it's a human comfort to think in those black and white areas, right? But I've been trying to, and especially somebody who, I think both of us are pretty, like, rigid, and we like structure.
Yeah.
And that's just not the human experience as much as almost every human craves it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we had so many conversations that kind of transcended different episodes, and so many of our guests brought in their wisdom. But something that you brought up, I think, is this next clip Kristen Neff?
No, it's not. But I was thinking when I brought up the gray area, like, we can just listen to it. But episode 5, I talked about not having a good day and what that can look like. That's kind of how I try and look at it, because somewhere in our society, we decided that good wasn't good because it's not great. We decided, that's like saying, okay, we decided water isn't water enough. Like, it doesn't make sense. It really, like, good isn't good. Like, we're really setting ourselves up for failure.
And everything you said there is right. If we're not kind to ourselves, we don't give ourselves self-compassion, as you've kind of brought up in other episodes, then we're being so hard on ourselves, and we're setting ourselves up for failure.
Yeah, honestly, I was really spitting in that episode.
You were.
No, I'm kidding. I was, but we talk about, that's exactly it. It's the polar opposites. There's fantastic and great, and then there's horrible, and there's nothing in between. And
Right.
That's just how we think sometimes, and we really set ourselves up for failure. The same thing goes, honestly, with, like, mistakes from your past. We talked about that in episode 19, and I kind of really continued what I was saying from what we just listened to in episode 5. If you're so disgusted by it now, I believe that's a sign of growth. I really do. Because you're not the same person that you were 5 years ago. You're not the same person you were 8 years ago. Preach.
Yeah, that's all you need to say.
That was something I really struggled with this year.
Preaching?
Yeah. Yes. No. But Frodo. Shout out
Frodo.
Father Jack Dennis.
Okay.
Preach. I was going to say he's a president. Where am I going with this?
I have no idea. But anyway, the next clip, we're talking a little bit about, this is within our conversation with Angela about talking about perfectionism. Mm-hmm. And you had said in the previous clip how if you are disgusted by something you did in your past, that shows growth, right? Because mm-hmm. you're maturing, have moved on, you're no longer the person that you were. Mm-hmm. I take that kind of past view in this next clip, and I start talking about how, in terms of a perfectionist, I'm someone who will, and I'm sure we all do it, are like going to sleep, laying in bed, and thinking about, oh, I could have said this, or I could have done this. But how that's also kind of unhealthy. So let's take a listen to that.
But I resonated with, you kind of dwell on your past mistakes, because I find that I'm someone that, locates themselves temporally kind of in the past. Like, yes, in the present, but I'm not super hedonistic or anything. I don't really think too far into the future. I think, what am I doing that day? And, maybe a week, a month, and, grad school and stuff, but I don't really think, like way far. I find that I'm in the past. Mm-hmm. And I think that's interesting that you brought that up, because I think on, sometimes I'm, it's one of those things that, they say jokingly that, like, when you're in the shower as you're going to bed, you think about a conversation or an argument that you had and the better points that you could have made. It's kind of like that, but with kind of like the mistakes I made, and not necessarily the mistakes I made too, but just how things could have gone better, when I should just kind of, move on from it. Life moves on. And to be honest, I've heard people say, we're the main characters of our own stories. And to be honest, if like you do something and in front of a stranger, in front of people, whatever, people are so focused, to be honest, and natural human instinct is to think more about yourself. People are so focused on themselves sometimes that if you do something and it's a mistake, whatever, they might talk about it for like an hour afterwards, or maybe longer, depending on, I don't know, if you're a celebrity or something, you might have tabloids, whatever. But eventually people forget and really don't give a crap. So why am I dwelling on it when other people aren't necessarily dwelling on it?
Yeah.
That was the episode with Angela and her hemp water. Angela Salazzo.
I forgot about that.
That was the summer. Oh my gosh, because she was
in Maine.
She was in Maine and she was helping her family. She was like, I don't want to go cook, so I'm going to record this podcast.
We don't have a montage of this, but can we just talk about all the different locations we've recorded this?
Yes. Speaking of locations, I was in New York. Where was I?
Were you in DC too? No, I think you were in New York. I was in Baltimore, Rhode Island, not New Hampshire. My house, your house. I guess there are not many.
No, I feel like we definitely. I was somewhere else. I was definitely somewhere. Oh, I was in DC.
You were in DC.
No, I wasn't.
No, you weren't in DC.
No, I wasn't. Where the hell was I?
At one point I said, where is Nicholas now?
Yeah, twice.
I don't know.
Twice. New York and some other place, apparently. I don't know where I was. But we're together now. We haven't said that yet. We're sitting on the same couch.
Yes, we're in person. We haven't done this since Marion's episode.
Yes. But back to our conversation, especially talking about perfectionism and being hard on ourselves, one of my favorite parts of the show so far has been when Ryan talked about his experience being hard on himself as a student. Because if you know Ryan, you know that he was probably the most student ever.
Very studious.
If that even makes sense.
Very studious student, yeah.
Let's play that.
In terms of socializing, it's ironic because like when I was in school, I took school very seriously. Everybody on this podcast knows this. To the detriment, I would say. School's not everything. So those of you that are listening out there, just get a degree and you'll be fine. This is coming from an engineering major who worked his ass off to get summa cum laude. But I missed out on a lot of college. COVID was kind of got in the way of that and made me realize, like, man, I wish I would have done things differently my sophomore, junior year.
To all our listeners out there, I really just held in a massive sneeze while I was introducing that. What do you have to say about that?
About Ryan's episode?
Yes.
Or just that part? Well, knowing Ryan, I know that it was not easy for him to admit that. I mean, I tried to encourage him when we were in school, to like, hey, like, it's the weekend. Let's go to Sky Zone. We didn't have to go out necessarily, but let's do something. And I don't know. I think he has matured a lot and he's shown a lot of growth, as we've just talked about, as he kind of showed in that clip. But he's just reiterating on a really important point that life is not all about your work or school. You need a work-life balance, and that's super important. And if you don't want to get caught up in the trivial things, right? I want to say, because I've said this to Ryan, hearing him say that was so inspirational for me, because that was me in middle school and high school. And I know middle school and college are very different, but that was something I really, really struggled with. That was when my OCD had first started rearing its ugly head. And just to hear him say that, like, it felt so, I don't know what the right word would be. Like, I felt heard hearing him say that. Yeah,
so that was really cool.
Another one of our guests, which we talked about, not something that was very trivial, but she had some advice to our young listeners as well, right?
Yes.
I'm talking about Marion.
Yes.
And the episode, that one of my most favorite episodes, I think, really an impactful episode.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, let's talk about Marion, because that was a really special episode.
I would just say, especially for your listeners, I know some of them are young like you guys, just starting life. Life is, it has its highs and lows, and even while you're in your 20s and 30s, I mean, I'm past all that. So every decade that you get like more confident in yourself, and things don't bother you and they roll off your sleeves and stuff like that. But, when you're in your 20s, it's a stage of just learning and figuring it out and figuring yourself out. And there is no right answer ever. So, go for it. Just try it. You're not going to make a mistake. And I think, in the whole process of cancer and treatments and stuff like that, you know yourself well, and everybody wants to survive. So try to do the very best you can, in picking the right decisions for yourself. And take a few minutes to do your own research, even if it's overwhelming. It can be extremely overwhelming, and there are a lot of differences. And yes, you want to rely 100% on the physician that is telling you what to do or explaining to you what they're going to do, but evaluate. Say, is this person on my side? Do they have my best interest at heart? You know, the idea that I said about the symmetry. Do I like my surgeon? Do I think they're listening to me? Are they hearing me? That I say, I want to wake up with symmetrical sides, you know? Do they hear me? Or are they just brushing me off? Because, you know, today's world, everybody is trying to do their best, like the doctors. I'm not negating the doctors, but I'm saying that, you know, they have a lot of clients that they see. They might become less desensitized to some things. And it's your first go, and you're just hearing you have a diagnosis. So force the issue. Make them hear you. Listen to what they say, and then make your decision. If that's not the right doctor, go somewhere else.
Wow. I mean, you just said it while we were listening to it. I think that was one of our most calming episodes.
Yes, she did a phenomenal job of taking a very serious and also traumatic topic for her and just making it... She spoke so eloquently and so calmly, and just... I felt at ease listening to her.
Absolutely.
And I loved what she was saying there about living life in your 20s, because I feel like that's like an extension of the conversation we had with Ryan about college. Because your 20s, I mean, I guess the beginning or at college for many people, but your 20s are like the progression of that.
Right, and you tend to sweat the small stuff, I feel like, in college, right?
Yes.
Really, when you're that young, I mean, there are definitely exceptions, but when you're that young, you're not worrying about all the things that, I don't know, like, just when you're an adult. I feel like we're getting to be adults and we're starting to get those stresses, but when you're in your 20s, to be honest, you're not worried about as many things as when you're older. And so I agree. I think Marion took the concept of what Ryan was talking about, is let's just not sweat the small stuff and have that work-life balance, and that's really important for a healthy life. But then also talked about, okay, like she experienced cancer both herself but also within her family. Mm-hmm. And so taking that head on with your support system, but also, you know, how to do that. And I think she gave some great tips during that episode.
For sure. And I mean, we talked about with both of them, you know, that not being hard on yourself and the perfectionism and self-abuse. We talked with Angela about Reverend Scott Adams' quote about perfection being the greatest form of self-abuse.
Absolutely.
And that's just a chef's kiss quote. But we also talked about the opposite. We talked about self-compassion. I talked in a little bit in episode 22 about Kristen Neff, who studies... She researches self-compassion and what she says about ordinary versus extraordinary. And what that is she says that in our culture, it's not okay to be ordinary. We all have to be extraordinary. But do you hear if we're all extraordinary, what are we all? Ordinary, say it with me. So we're setting ourselves up to fail, and we talked about that a little bit earlier in this episode. But connecting with that ordinary nature is connecting with that human nature, and that's what makes us human, and that's sitting with our suffering. That's self-compassion.
Right.
So we talked a lot about that and just being kind to yourself. And also kindness to others, which I believe is a form of self-care. We did the whole Be Kind 21 campaign surrounding that.
Yeah.
And talked about it on episode 8. But, of course, we took it to another level and talked about self-sabotaging kindness, which has been super relevant for me today. And I just wanted to say that I think something that we're really getting wrong as humans today, and well-intentioned humans, is the idea that if you're being kind and it's not to your own self-detriment, it's not real kindness, or you're not doing something the right way. Like, I want to know, like, who said that if a kind act serves us, that it's invalid? Like, who said that? Because think about how many times it's like, oh, he's doing that for himself, or she's doing that for himself. The statement in and of itself is unkind to ourselves. And it's some self-sabotaging shit. I'm not going to lie.
Right.
Like, it's something to really think about. We could do a whole nother episode about that, but...
Yes, absolutely. And so I think it's important to talk about, we did Be Kind 21, and in that episode we talked about how even if we're doing an act that, and our head starts thinking, oh, are we doing this act for ourselves? Or are we doing it even if you think a kind act inherently is kind act, and we talk about intention, and that's super important.
Of course.
In terms of morality, that determines if the act is the wrong one.
I mean, you don't want to be doing it to be like, oh, look at me, I'm doing something. That's not...
Right. But that's definitely a theme that we talked about throughout these 23 episodes. Well, this is episode 23, but
We've talked about it now, so...
Yes.
And I mean, I talked about one of my favorite ways to show kindness to strangers. Not strangers, but like acquaintances online, like followers on Instagram and stuff. Is to swipe up on stories and respond to people. Like, I think that's such a authentic way to be online, and we rarely see authenticity on social media. But there's something about it. It's like dropping your ego to connect with someone in that way that's very humanizing, and just, it's how I became friends with my friend Nick, who was on episode 13.
So, I was watching SpongeBob, all right? And so I used to send on Snapchats all the time of what I'm watching every night. All right. And now I post on Instagram of what I'm watching. This goofball down below, all right. He starts commenting on SpongeBob and we're just talking and that's how we became friends.
That's how you became friends. Just that simple act.
Yeah, we've been friends for 2 years now. We love you, King. Anyways, we talked about reaching out and being present and that human connection. I loved when you talked about the Ministry of Presence. Can we listen to that? And then I want to hear you talk more about it because it's really good.
Yeah, absolutely.
The conversations I had is what really made it worthwhile for me, that human connection. And I learned that this is called a Ministry of Presence. I wasn't necessarily doing a lot, but I was being present with these patients or these clients. And when I talk about different types of service, this was something that's completely new to me. I felt like I always had to either be donating something for a drive, or serving people food, or fundraising for a certain cause. But I'd never really realized that just being present with people was a form of service or a ministry.
It is. It's a form of ministry. And as I kind of alluded to in that section, I sometimes feel like, okay, acts of kindness. The word act seems like it needs to be a very active thing, right? But showing that you care about someone just by being with them and being present with them is also an act of kindness. And so that I just was talking about my senior service there and how, working in a physical therapy office isn't necessarily, it's not, you're doing things, but it's not your stereotypical acts of service. But I don't know, I learned a lot about being present with people, and I try and live that out every day of my life.
Yeah, I really resonate with that too, in the way that there really is, I feel like, something that unlocks when you're doing volunteer work in service and whatever it may be that you're doing. We talk about the example in one episode of like going to the soup kitchen in high school, and it's like at first you were like, oh, like I don't want to, and how I worked at the elderly living complex or volunteered there for my school volunteer work. But so not necessarily like wanting to do it before you go, but then you get there, it's really something special. Right.
And same thing, if you're in an assisted living home or a senior living home, you're not doing much. You might be playing bingo, you might be playing board games, but it is a ministry of presence.
I think I enjoyed the bingo more than them, I'm not going to lie. Like, I'm fully serious.
I'm not surprised.
I got to call it out.
I'm really not surprised.
I got to call it out, and that was a huge honor.
Before we transition into something different, our away from kindness, I feel like we should talk about our green text, blue text conversation with iPhones and Androids.
Yes. Oh, voice crack. Yes.
Let's take a listen.
The amount of groans that I get when I like get someone's news number, I share my number with someone new, and it's like, oh, we can't name the group chat. Oh, it's a green text. Like, I get shamed all the time for having an Android.
Wow.
So in light of in the chat and like coming after Be Kind 21, let's be kind to our Android.
To our Android users.
All I have to say there, let's be kind to our friends with Androids.
I had my head out. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I love you, King.
Sure.
You're at my house, King. Let's transition. Another way we used our platform kindly this year was by talking about social justice issues. And honestly, I think Mary put it best on episode 9.
And it's constantly asking myself, even in the classroom, who's here, who's not here, and why.
Right.
as a person of faith, attending mass, who's here, who's not here, and why.
Absolutely. And I think social justice is something that I want to continue to do into the next year too. And we already kind of alluded to, we want to have a race conversation and making sure we do that correctly. But I agree with what Mary said, looking around in the spaces that you occupy, and hopefully you're needed in those spaces, and seeing who's there, who's not, who's included, and why is it so or why is it not so.
Yeah. Honestly, that's a mantra right there. We talk about New Year's resolutions in episode 22, and I would really like Mary's words from that episode 9, to guide me in 2022. And we talked a little bit, too, about how New Year's resolutions sometimes, are a goal, and how we don't really want to think of it that way anymore. It's more like you want it to guide you instead of you reaching for it and then failing, because who's actually succeeded at a New Year's resolution? Let's just...
Not me.
No, me neither. So
I'm also so impressed that you know each episode by number.
Thank you. But that is something that I would like to let those words guide my actions in 2022.
Absolutely. Another social justice topic we talked about is COVID. But with COVID, wearing a mask and the reasoning behind wearing a mask or getting vaccinated. And we talked a little bit with Ryan, who is from Louisiana, and so is speaking from that point of view. And let's see what he had to say.
We have to look at places like India, South Africa. Those places are struggling because they don't have the luxury we have as Americans to get the vaccine, and yet we don't want to wear masks because it's my body, my choice. Because that's an interesting argument that people give out a lot. It's my body, my choice. I don't have to wear a mask and I'll get sick. But that's the same reason pro-choice people give about abortions. Yet the majority of Louisiana and Republicans are, you can't save my body, my choice. Yet Republicans are for the majority, or those in Republican states have lower vaccination rates and are giving the same excuse. It's my body, my choice. And that, I would ponder that if that is one of you.
We are still in a pandemic, even though I don't want to think we are. But we are.
I love the sigh you do at the end of all of the serious clips.
I've just been holding a lot, so I'm just trying to breathe it out.
That's fair. That is totally fair. It was really refreshing to hear him say that, just as somebody who he talked about, from the South, from Louisiana. He said that there were a lot of people down there that,
And not to generalize, too, because every person from the South and every Republican is not the same and all that stuff. And I think Ryan mentioned that, too.
Right, and I think he's an example of that.
Absolutely. Well, and he's an independent. Let's just make sure, we're not going to...
Oh, no, no, I don't... Yeah.
But, I don't know. It's just the frustration sometimes of the politicizing of the pandemic, right? It's a public health issue is a public health issue. It's not a political issue. We've kind of turned it into a political issue, but it's not that. And it's just... Well, I'm going to sigh again. I don't know. I just wish, mask up for your friends, get vaccinated for your family and your friends, and let's just, be with one another and think outside of ourselves when we talk about this pandemic too.
That's the New Year's resolution for 2022 America. You heard it here.
And yeah, Mary, honestly, they should have been on the same episode, Ryan and Mary, because Mary talked about in her episode, we were obviously talking about abortion and access to abortion, SB 8 in Texas, but she was talking about how those who consider themselves as pro-life can't only be pro-life when it comes to abortion. You can't only be a one-issue pro-life person. Let's take a listen to what Mary had to say.
And we want to talk about care, protecting community, and protecting human life.
Right.
Who are you talking about? What is that referring to? And how come this issue where you so strongly advocate for exists in isolation from all of the other areas that concern human life?
For those that want to hear more on that discussion, that's episode 9. It was a super important one, and it was challenging for us. You mentioned in one of the episodes that was the most uncomfortable one to record, but also one of the most
it was enlightening. Rewarding, enlightening. In our Rapid Questions episode, I said that was the most challenging one because although we have an opinion podcast, it's literally called Point of View.
Yes.
It's difficult for those controversial opinions that people have, and honestly, I think it's important to have an opinion regardless.
Yep.
It's hard to put that out there. You're exposing yourself and being vulnerable, and especially with that topic, which is such a hotly debated topic, I don't know, it was challenging, but it was also really rewarding to finally have it out there and just have that conversation with two people I really care about. And I felt safe in that space.
Yes.
So
honestly, my final thoughts for this episode on social justice, and I say it on episode 19, we can play that clip if you want. I think one of the best acts of social justice, in my opinion, is instilling these values in your kids and kind of making them the stewards of, and in doing so, you're doing it yourself too, but teaching that in your kids, because if you can teach your kids to love your neighbor's kids, that's huge.
Let's transition to something lighter. We've talked about self-care, self-compassion. On the opposite side of that, self-sabotage, self-abuse. We've talked about kindness towards yourself, towards others. We've talked about social justice. In episode 3, we started one of our longest, I guess you called it in one of the episodes, one of our longest tropes, which is,
dare I say, fruity.
asking each guest what fruit they would be and why.
Yes.
Should we remind ourselves where that came from?
Yes. Let's hear the backstory.
Okay, so this is not, it became a joke because my brother was interviewing for like private high schools because he was like, was a big hockey player and he wanted to like attend a prep school that would help him to play in college and all that stuff. And so part of the admissions process is an interview. And so my brother had prepared with my mom, like all the normal questions you get in like a college or a high school interview. And then he went into one interview and the admissions officer goes, if you were a fruit, what fruit would you be and why? And my brother, with a stroke of genius, just goes, I would say that I'm a watermelon because on the outside, I have this hard exterior. Like I'm a hockey player. And so like sometimes hockey players, you got to be tough in the locker room, tough on the ice, tough, around your friends. That's just kind of the culture of the sport. But on the inside, I really do care. And I feel a lot of things and I care about the people that I love, my friends, my family. And so we always joke that whenever my brother Ryan shows emotions or our brother Ryan shows emotions, we say, "Aw, the watermelon."
I love that story.
That's a good one.
And I love that it's turned into something with our podcast of asking every single one of our guests. But
he needs to be on the show, and we need to ask him.
He needs to listen first.
Yeah.
Hey, Watermelon, listen to this episode at least, huh?
Has he listened to an episode yet? Do you know?
I don't know. Maybe. I got to cut him some slack. I'm saying, fine, innocent before proven guilty.
Yes.
Anyway.
We'll have him on and we can ask. But should we hear everybody's responses? These speak for themselves.
We have to. Let's listen to everybody's responses.
So what would you be?
Well, this might be me being an Ashley world, but I can totally see me being an orange. Because like you just see me as like a whole, but once you like peel me and like get to know me, I have like a bunch of different parts about me that you just don't know about. And it's hard for me to open up it's hard for me to open up in the beginning, but once you get to know me, there's a lot. So I'd be an orange.
Justin, do you have an answer?
I can't really, I have an answer. I don't have an explanation. For some reason, pineapple is coming to my head. I feel like I like the warm weather. Pineapples are tropical. They're unique looking. I'm unique looking. No.
Well, I want to say like a strawberry because that's my favorite fruit, but probably watermelon. I would say watermelon. Watermelon, I would say mainly because it's made up of water and I'm like a health freak, so I drink a lot of water.
Ryan!
Yeah?
If you were a fruit, what fruit would you be?
What an interesting question. If I were a fruit, I think I would be a kiwi because they are very misunderstood fruits because they're like really weird looking on the outside and so no one gives them credit, but they're like the best thing ever when you actually eat one. And you can eat them really easily because you just can eat them with a spoon. I'm just talking about why I love kiwis. It doesn't really describe my personality.
Well, my answer a couple episodes ago was because a pineapple is unique looking, and I said I'm unique looking, and you said kiwis are weird looking. So what does that say about you?
I mean, I'm from the South, so I feel like I'm easily judged, and so everybody easily judges a kiwi. But then when they have a kiwi, they're like, "Wow, this is the best thing ever," and it pairs well with a lot of other things. So I'm a very good and very different situation situations. So, you have like kiwi watermelon or like kiwi pineapple or like kiwis just pair well with things. I pair well with people. That's my answer, and that's what I'm sticking to.
If I were a fruit, okay, wait, I think I would go with an apple, really, because I love apples. I really do. They're like a great fruit. They're always, but the reason why is I would say I'm reliable and like kind of like classic, always there. Just and apples are never really bad unless you let them go bad.
Then you have a bad apple.
Yeah. But yeah, that's my basis. I think an apple. They're reliable. They're good. I would hope I'm reliable and good. And
I like
that's
that
all.
answer. If you were a fruit, what fruit would you be and why?
Great question. I was actually thinking about this beforehand
Ooh,
as an avid
she's
listener to
prepared.
the podcast. I think this morning I would identify with a lime. I feel like limes pair well with a lot of different things, and they're like a good addition to a lot of drinks, food. They're multi-purpose. You shouldn't leave them out for too long or they'll get sad. No, but yeah, I feel like so often there's like limes added to things and they just make them fun. So I hope I'm that.
If you were a fruit, what fruit would you be and why?
I'd probably say a banana because, I'm a sweet person and, and a banana's like really sweet.
If you were a fruit, what fruit would you be?
Oh, well, I'm going to say strawberry.
I love that.
I'm going to say a pineapple because I was watching SpongeBob last night. And that's just really on the brain. And how cool would it be to live in a pineapple? You could just like eat the wall when you're hungry and not need to go to the grocery store.
If you were a fruit, what would you be?
Oh, what would I be?
And why?
And why? Yes.
And why?
Yes, of course.
I think I would be an apple.
Okay. Why?
Why? Well, because it would be that I was sweet and liked a lot, because a lot of people like apples. And I like the idea that I'm up on a tree, so I can kind of view the world from not the ground.
Yeah.
I'd like to see above and see the outside.
If you were a fruit,
Yes.
what fruit would you be and why?
It's a really hard question. I was Googling fruits to figure it out. I don't know. I want to say kiwi, but I don't know why. Yeah, but I don't even really like the taste that much. I just think it's like so unique, and like it doesn't really get like, I feel like, we like throw chocolate or like something else, or we throw a lot of fruit on different dishes, like with charcuterie and stuff. But I don't know. I like that it stands alone and it's just like a cool fruit.
If you just resonate with a kiwi, you can just resonate with a kiwi.
Yeah, I don't know. I just kind of respect the kiwi.
I'd say I'm a coconut, no further questions. I was going to switch mine to avocado because I'm easy to open. People can easily take advantage of me, but I have a really I don't know. I have like a bad part. I don't know. I was like, this is horrible. Why am I saying this? I have a pit. I've been thinking of switching mine to cherry because like avocados, I don't know. Cherries also have pits.
Nick, but then we have to implement a rule of how many times can you change your fruit, because this would be the second time you've changed it.
Okay, but I am fruity.
You are.
That was great.
I'm glad you appreciated that. So let's just take the grand total, okay? So out of these 22 episodes, we have 1 orange, 1 strawberry, 1 banana, 1 lime, 1 watermelon, 2 kiwis, 2 apples, 2 pineapples, and 1 cocoa avo cherry. Would you say that would be?
What is that? I was like, who was that? I didn't even get that.
That would be you. I love that has become a running joke because I just think it's really funny and it's very us.
Yeah.
Just the fruity fruit. I don't know.
Just listening to that and hearing that we had more than one, I was like, we should start a dating app where it's like fruits mingle. My real friends will know that there already is an app for that. Just gonna put that out there, and you'll get it if you get it. If that.
I just love that it's been a running joke, and I feel like we've had a lot of sayings on the podcast that have been running jokes, so much so that we made a Halloween costume out of it. Let's recount some of them. Oh, absolutely.
Oh, absolutely.
H.
That's
it. No, just kidding. No. Black summer, rigorous fall.
Hold on. The whole point of that episode was not just transitioning from a lax summer to a rigorous fall, but it was transitioning from a lax summer to a rigorous fall.
And Humpty Dumpty had a wonderful
Oh my
fall.
gosh, yes. So, he had a great fall.
And it was needed in that space.
Yes.
So many of these things. But another running gag that honestly I didn't appreciate until I was putting together this episode was how many times members of your family interrupted you while we were recording.
All right, see you around.
Let's take a listen to all of those.
So we have our first guest. I'm sorry, we have our first guest on the show. My dad is joining us. I'm done upstairs, yes. Gary Gervasi, everybody. My mom just texted me Big Brother, so she's probably on the other side of the door.
She's on the other side of the door listening.
Abby's trying to get me to stop recording. I don't know why you're sad. Oh, we have our first interruption of the episode. Who is it? Oh, they're definitely, now they're not even gonna, oh, I think it's my mom. Here she comes. It might be my sister. I don't know. Oh, it's my mom.
I didn't know you were here.
Yeah, I told you I was recording.
You should
Welcome.
shut your bedroom door. That's the reason I thought.
I was taking a nap. What is this? This is an unexpected visit. Should I read it out loud? I don't even know what it says. Funny how drinking 8 cups of water a day seems like it's impossible, but 8 beers and why? And 6 shots in 3 hours go down like, I'm not reading this. I'm not reading this. Goodbye. My mom has to be loud on the outside of the door. It wouldn't be an episode if one of my family members didn't enter. My mom has officially interrupted episode 17.
I have to say, hi, Justin.
Hi.
I have
He's an
to
uninvited
say
guest.
Sometimes my texts come across abruptly, but
Yeah.
only because I'm trying to like be quick or I'm trying to like do 100 things. So people have to remember you can't detect tone in a text.
Yes.
Yes,
So I
that
guess
is so important.
That would be this was supposed to be constructive criticism for him. So because I feel like you might get like nervous that I'm like mad, and I'm really not. I'm just either at work or I send texts or I forget because I'm pretty great at forgetting texts.
So basically what he's trying to say is he's never
Why?
mad at you.
Why? You are not the guest this
Because I'm a
episode.
mom.
All right.
All right, bye.
I love that. You don't. You're
my
Ryan,
face.
You're,
I was
you're
like,
cringing so hard right now.
I wasn't even cringing. I was just like rolling my eyes throughout that whole thing. Honestly, can't a guy speak his point of view in private to then put on the internet for anybody and anyone to listen to?
Can't you be your authentic self in private?
Yeah. That sounds so bad. That sounds so bad. We did speak authentically, though. We talked about our authentic selves on the episode about masks, which honestly, that was like your gem.
Mine?
Like that, yes. You did such a good job planning that.
Well, thank you.
Should we listen?
Sure.
I don't think that wearing a mask, like putting a mask on or not showing, who you are right away or in certain spaces is necessarily a bad thing. I feel like evolutionarily, it's probably something that we've figured out in terms of like survival. Because, like if you're with your close friends, you would hope that you're your authentic self and you're being genuine and who you actually want to be. But then if you're in a group of strangers, for instance, I don't know, at some sort of party and you only know one person, I feel like you're just going to let parts of yourself that you're finding, I have this in common, I'm just going to talk about this, but I feel like that's okay. But I think if you're only in spaces where you aren't able to be your true self, then I feel like maybe that could be an issue. I'm not afraid to necessarily bring my identities into this, but like I think having my identities and being firm in who I am and like knowing who I am, I think is helpful in being able to like access that, like, and figure out who that authentic self for me is.
Well, first off, I really enjoyed our conversation for that episode, and you said that was my gem.
It was.
Well,
it was like
you.
your magnum opus. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. I never took Latin, but it really was. There were so many new wave moments in that episode, and that sounds so pompous to say, but like, it was just really good. Especially when I talked. That sounds horrible. But I made a point about, like, we talked about our different types of selves too, because we all have more than one. not just mask, but like persona that is authentic for different spaces. And I mentioned that I can tell we were trying to name our different personas, and I can say, and I was able to pick up on mine based on my sense of humor in the space that I was in, which was really cool.
Before we move any further, I think your gem was the forgiveness episode. I don't know the numbers.
19.
Like you. Apparently it was 19. But anyway, the second half of what number was this one?
This was episode 11.
11. The second half of 11, we did impressions.
We did.
Now, we only have one of each
to show
you in this one. But I did an impression of my sister, which I think is pretty accurate. And just because I want to show you how accurate it was, we're going to play my sister's voice first and then my impression. Back to back. Let's just listen to this.
Hello, people.
Ashley, woo! How does it feel to be our first guest?
It feels good, but I'm not gonna lie, I totally forgot that I was recording this, so I was just listening to you guys, and I was like, all right, should I go watch Gossip Girl? But you know what? I'm on here, so.
Hi. Oh my God, I forgot I was on this because I was listening to you guys, and I was just like, do I just want to watch an episode of Friends?
Yes, I think it was accurate. What do you think, Patrick? Exactly.
Okay, so hold on. Just to be fair, let me just back up for a second, because I can do a really good Patrick Star.
Do it now.
I was trying to do the ooh. That wasn't much better. But I did some good ones on the episode that actually sounded like him. I was trying to do that one, and it didn't work, and it just sounded like I'm screaming. And then, which I essentially was. And then you hit back with this.
I was so rude.
No, it was funny.
Do you have an impression that you can do? That you like, no, that sounded terrible.
The one you can do? No, I'm kidding.
No.
Honestly, we both were terrible, but it was like
it was just.
I'll
funny.
speak for myself because I've already insulted you enough with that clip.
You're gonna come at me again. No.
Mine were rough.
Mine were bad. I did some bad ones on there. That was okay.
I blame Dan.
Yes, he gave us some hard ones to do.
Some obscure ones. Those were some difficult.
Do you remember when I had to do Tom and I sat there for like 20 minutes and we had to cut it down a lot of me being like, I don't want to, I don't know how to, and that wasn't my impression. It was me just like freaking out, and you're like, Nick, do the impression.
Yeah.
That was bad time.
Speaking of Dan,
yes,
we wouldn't be Point of View without our producer Dan, and we are I'll speak for myself and let you speak in a second, but I am so grateful for the work that he does for this podcast, and the fact that he doesn't even live in the same time zone as us is just we're so grateful for him.
Yes, Dan, it's true. I almost spit out my mint there. That's what that sound was that you just heard. No, honestly, I appreciate Dan so much. He is a very hard worker and just very creative with this show.
This podcast wouldn't be Point of View without Nick, what you bring, Dan, what Dan brings.
Oh, I totally agree. Like, we've talked about this before. Dan, you can hear Dan. He hasn't said a word, and you can hear him in the editing of this show. And I think that is a testament to how good, and like, this show is a Point of View show, and the fact that you can just feel him in this show is the fact that you can recognize, you can get his essence in this show is really cool. But I feel the same way if you look at our social media. Like, I very much take pride in that, and even just I think that you are just you are the anchor of the show, I believe. And
me?
Yes.
.fm?
Yes. Yes. No, I really do believe that, and I wouldn't have it any other way, honestly. I'm very happy to be the Boy Robin. I don't watch superhero movies.
Boy Robin.
Is that not a thing?
No, that's very much a thing. That's Batman's sidekick.
Is he Boy
But
Robin?
you're not my sidekick, I would say.
I do want to take this moment to play a montage of some of the more questionable transitions that he's given us.
Let's listen to some of Dan's artistry.
Yes.
Hold up. I got my equipment from, well, now my boyfriend, but from Colby.
I hear rustling. Does anyone know what that is? Oh, Jesus. What the hell?
Ouija boards out. I'm just kidding.
listening back to that, there were a lot of good ones. I thought we were just putting the ones that I had questions on, but those were really good. The only ones I really have questions on, the first one, when Ashley says, I got my equipment from my now boyfriend Colby, and then it's a... I was like, does Colby live in a haunted house? Like, what was scary about that?
Suspense.
And then we were on the opposite. I feel like we could have, like, switched these, because, like, we were talking about Ouija boards, and then we transitioned with, like, a relaxing, smooth jazz.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
You said you asked Dan about that today.
Yeah, he said, I don't know, it felt right.
And it did feel right.
And
only on point
that,
of due.
Only on point of due. And I love that in the beginning of that very same episode, because Ryan is from where he is. He put banjo music for the introduction.
I forgot that was because of Ryan. That's everything.
That's what that was. Toward the end there, you heard our first theme, which in the beginning of this episode you also heard.
Yes.
I love the evolution of how our theme song went from there to what it is now. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate, I don't know if you listeners know, but Dan tweaks it a little bit each time.
Yes.
He adds an instrument, takes another instrument away, maybe does it in a different key, but small minor tweaks to it each time. And I think that, like you were saying, that's how you can really hear Dan in the podcast.
Yes.
I love the theme song so much that it's my current ringtone, I must say. But I want to give a full minute to just listening to the
Can
theme
I just
song,
say, that's a little self-centered, almost as self-centered as listening to 20 episodes of yourself in a row, because I had to do that for this episode.
Which you did. So let's listen to the theme song.
That really is like his, you know, we talk about like we said like episode 19 was my like
gem,
yours was episode 11. The theme song is his for sure.
Absolutely. That song slaps.
My favorite version of it, which we didn't play, but you can go listen to it on, it's like the only
is it the Fear episode? Fear episode.
I don't know if it is.
I think it's 15.
It's the organ.
Oh, I got it.
Was it? Well, the Fear episode was episode 15. That was a good one. But it was on an organ, and it was just like, I don't know if we're processing in to get married or buried, because it was like, but it was really good. It's really, really cool, and I liked it a lot.
So, as we mentioned in the beginning, this is our final episode of 2021. 2021! We will return in 2022.
We're not telling you when. We're going to take a little break, and then we'll return, but we already have the date picked. We're very excited. My last thought for today is, don't cry because it's over for now. Smile because it happened. Or we could smile because it's over and cry because it happened. I don't know. That's just a thought to leave you with. But do you have any last thoughts before we give them the grand finale that was requested more than once?
I know, by all of our listeners. I'm so excited for that one. No, I think, like I said, I want to express my gratitude for you and for Dan, and I've just had so much fun with this. And to all of our listeners and those who supported us, either through listening or even supporting us in our merch fundraiser for Toys for Tots. Like I said, we raised over $150 for Toys for Tots, and that was just, I mean, I'm still speechless.
Yes, and when you hear this episode, the merch will be to you if you ordered some. We want to tag us, like take pictures, tag us at Point of Due Podcast.
At Point of Due Podcast.
It's on the back of the shirt if you need to, if you need a reference. I also want to just say like how proud of us I am, because listening, I mentioned that I did listen to all of the episodes, in order to pick our highlights for this one, and there are the word that I would use is authenticity. There are so many moments that it's just like us, and that, again, it's a point of view podcast, but we really went to like the heart of what we were feeling.
Absolutely. And you know, if we didn't feel that way, I think we would have done something wrong. So I think we went out, set out to, you know, we speak our truth to learn the truth. And I think that's exactly what we're doing, is we're just speaking what we know, speaking what we believe, and trying to start conversations. And I think that's exactly what we have done, at least with these last 22 episodes.
And the part of learning the truth, really, even listening back, because some of my opinions change, too. Like, some of the things I said, I'm like, oh, I would have said that differently now. But, like, looking back, I was doing my best to formulate into words what I was feeling.
Exactly.
So...
without further ado, should we give the listeners what they've been waiting for?
Yeah, speaking of learning, you had a lot to teach us on episode 12.
Boy.
I was, not that I was taught this, I don't know how I learned these, but like, I feel like everyone has different definitions for what the bases are too. Like, for me, I learned it was the 4 F's. French, feel, finger.
Oh my God. Like holding hands. What happened to holding hands?
What happened to holding hands?
We're holding hands right now. No,
we're not.
No, we're not.
And
don't worry, ladies, he's single.
I am mortified by that, but also it's like, you know what? I'm putting myself out there, you know, whatever. Like I literally told Nick when we were eating dinner before we sat down to record that at my wedding, if he gives a speech, this will probably be included in it.
Oh, absolutely.
But I don't know. I was just immediately afterwards, I was embarrassed, right? And was it the next episode or a couple episodes later?
So that was episode 12. I brought it up again, probably on 13, also on 14, definitely on 14, which we're going to show them the clip with Elizabeth and Rachel reacting to it.
And there's what they said.
Might I remind y'all of the 4 F's real quick?
No, you can.
Really
you don't. No,
that.
I would. Remember, we said we're going to get as far away from the 4 F's after that episode.
I've heard great. The only feedback I have gotten from that is that it's hysterical because you usually don't speak that way.
Yeah,
people are very shocked.
I said in the episode, I'm really just exposing myself and my knowledge.
Also, the back and forth for the entire week of do we include that? Do we cut it out?
Oh my gosh, the behind the scenes information from do we include it? Do we not? Oh my gosh, what should I do?
Speaking as a point of view viewer. Good choice.
I listened to it when I'm driving and I just about crashed the car. I was like, I can't believe this just happened.
Yeah.
I'm glad she didn't.
Yeah, I am glad she didn't as well. Do you have any more thoughts hearing it a second time or a 20th time?
I wouldn't do it any other way.
Yeah, no, I'm so glad we kept it in there because that is the part that people bring up to us.
So
out of
much.
All of the things we talked about.
That's the part you and Dan bring up to me. So
yeah,
I mean...
of course. We're not going to let you live it down. But that's, like, we talked about so many different things. And, of course, the 4 F's, which I don't even think I can say, and you just heard them. Just really... sex ed right there. Let's just replace...
No, not even... No, absolutely not. Let's not do that. Absolutely not.
You've heard of the, like...
Anyway,
how to make a baby video?
No, let's stop. We're going to end this show right now before we go any further down that road.
All right, see you around.
Anyway, for the last time in 2021, my name is Justin Dew.
I am Nick Gervasi.
As always, you can reach us on Instagram and Facebook at Point of Dew Podcast or by sending us a voice message on our website, anchor.fm/Point of Dew. If you enjoy our show, give us a rating or review in the Apple Podcast Store, or while we're away, share us with a friend or family member. You can catch up on all 23 episodes.
Share this episode.
Exactly. Get a little preview.
It's a preview of all of them.
Well, preview, it's probably 2 hours long, but let's see. We really appreciate, as we've said, all of your support since we started in July all the way until now in December 2021. We are so grateful for every single one of you.
We'd be talking to ourselves if it wasn't.
This is true. It would just be the 3 of us.
And we could probably still do it.
The 3 of us in a virtual room. But it's so much more fun. It's so much... I don't know. I get so much energy from this project. and from the audience feedback and everything. So we are so grateful. We hope you have a wonderful holiday season, safe holiday season with your friends and family. Make smart decisions, wear a mask, get vaccinated. We'll see you in the new year.
This has been the 2021 version of Point of View.
I am happy, I am fine now. Am I dying? No, I am not. Yes, we are who we are. Everything's going right, cheers me up. Because time to say goodbye to myself in the past. Time to say goodbye. Time to say hi.